we go. Here we go. Good morning. We can get set up here. I'm getting set up right here. Hello. Good morning. All right. Soup Trucker Podcast going live. By popular demand, today's topic is going to be the lease to purchase. Remember, it's not about promoting to get into a lease to purchase. It's just talking details, whether it's the right move for you, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So give an opportunity for some people to jump on. All right. It's that midweek, another mile, another day, guys. Got to make this week count, especially if you're out there, on the road. So again, we actually welcome all kinds of comments. We actually want to find out what is it that the majority of the people want to learn about. So if we have an opportunity to share that on this platform, that's what this whole thing is about: putting good info in front of good people, so you could actually be more successful at what you do, and as being an owner operator, whether you're thinking of becoming one or you are already one. So again, we're going to just allow a couple people to join and jump right into it. All right. All right. Here we go. Get an opportunity to get it together. Hold on one second right here. All right, for anybody who's on there right now, what kind of work are you doing, man? Over the road? Where are you at? It's midweek right now. You should be checking those numbers to figure out, how you're actually going to end up, what you're going to be ending up grossing at the end of the week. So don't forget, push that dispatcher, man. You have to push them so you make this week count. As a matter of fact, every week has to count. So here we go. So I'm also curious, how many guys that are out there are actually on lease to purchase programs that can work out for them? Like there's definitely some good programs out there and not so good programs, right? And I think that's what you have to consider. Which one of these is going to be better for you? So. Here we go, guys. So the interesting part, right, is on these topics that we pick to go live is actually based off of the viewers and the followers. So if you check us out on YouTube, Super Trucker Podcast, you're going to see a range of topics of everything that we cover. And again, it's always about promoting the industry, and for those who decide to become successful in it and are looking for additional tools on how to actually do that. We share experiences that we've gone through. That way, that enables you to hopefully learn through that and not so much get burnt yourself. It's, this is an expensive sport, as we say it all the time. So mistakes do cost money in this industry. You can make money, but at the same time, you could end up spending a lot of money. So what we do is we share those moments that, we had to take that L and just preach on that so that you won't have to experience the same thing we did and minimize your cost to do business. So that's what the program's about. I mean, we've even had people who actually ran with us, did some time with us, got stronger at the game, stepped away and did their own authority and are very successful. So that's always a win for everybody. There's enough money in this business and industry for everybody to eat. You just got to have the grind for it and dedication. All right. So as we're waiting for some people to join, my people, again, it's that Wednesday. I wonder how many of you guys are barely hitting the road right now, or how many of you guys are already halfway through that week for real, like making sure that that dispatcher planned you out, and you're gonna have that decent gross at the end of the week. I know in our environment, you definitely want to be picking up on that Friday morning to deliver Monday to close out that week. That's just how we do it. So it ain't over till it's over. So always pushing for that successful, productive week. All right. And what we also have, again, I want to say if anybody out there is looking for specific topics, whether it goes from 2290s all the way to IRP, I encourage you check out, first go to Super Trucker Podcast. You have an opportunity there to go through, scroll through a bunch of videos that have covered a lot of these topics. And it also gives you an opportunity to give us suggestions as to what you might want to see. That way we can help out this trucking community and share our experiences. And again, every day we learn from you as well. So if we can do things better, it's about that as well. Just sharing stories so that everybody can actually advance in their business. So make sure you hit us up on that Super Trucker Podcast. We're all over social media, TikTok as well, and Facebook. So make sure you get that done. All right. Here we go. So. All right. I'm about to get started here. Excuse me. All right. So it's actually the way we pick our topics, people, is always going to be based on the most common questions that people are either calling in for on the recruiting line, and it's also on Super Trucker Podcast, the comments that are being left behind and people asking questions. So I do believe sometimes people are shy to ask certain questions, and it's the simplest things that can make you successful in trucking. Having a range of things where people have attempted to start their own authority, not actually knowing all the costs that come involved with that, only to find out when it's a little bit too late and you're already at that like midpoint where either you go back and lose or you go forward and try to make it happen. But either way, just a little bit of information could have changed the entire scenario for people and could have made the difference of grand opening or grand closing. So that's what this program is about. Um, to push the information that is out there, to do best business practices so that your trucking company can actually flourish and you can be successful, right? And that's what this is. That's what the show is about. So please put those comments below on anything that you guys might want to hear. And again, sometimes we may assume that somebody knows that already, but if you've never had exposure to it, then you don't know what you don't know, right? And vice versa. Again, we're here to learn as well. So there's a great possibility that it may make the difference in your business. So here we go. All right, guys. So here we go. Let's get started up on this on today's topic. So what we're doing here is pretty much going to discuss the lease to purchase program. Not here to talk bad about it, not here to talk good about it, just to drop the information of what's out there. They come in actually all shapes and sizes, depending on the individual and what that person's going to need. Um, so let's start at the top of the key with actual ones that probably may seem not as attractive, but that's the key, right? Who is it attractive to? So those bad boys that are offered by carriers is one of them. No money down. It looks so easy. Sign and drive, walk away lease. All right, so let's talk about that bad boy. You have to understand that what's going to happen next is like the ability to have that freedom to walk away. You got the fine print gets smaller. You got to definitely read that. The other thing that you have to pay attention to is, right, if you're not going to have any money down and you got no skin in the game, right, the likelihood of you walking away or failing is going to increase. So because of that risk, the charges that they're going to charge you are going to be a lot more. So that's one of the biggest things that you have to look at. So now if you're going to consider it and you're looking at this carrier, right, there has to be a benefit for that carrier to put you onto their program. They're not just giving a truck away for free. So there is, again, not saying don't do it. I'm not saying do it. We're just here to drop information about the details behind these things and what you should look out for and what you should be reading once, looking it over again before you sign on the dotted line, and then you act surprised that you're in a bad position. All right, so a carrier is going to offer you the lease to purchase where, let's just say $500 a week, right? That's just kind of the sticker price because there's additional cost to that. You're going to have insurance on that. They got to roll in the plates. They have to roll in the 2290s. They have to roll in maintenance on that. Why? Because it's their truck. They want to make sure that it's maintained. So they're increasing that piggy bank so that there is money to maintain it. And for those guys who walk away, and let's say now you need tires on that bad boy, that's where they're getting the funds for that. It's going to come from that maintenance reserve on it. Um, so, so you're looking at all of that, right? One of the biggest things, whether you should jump into something like that and why it would attract some people, the reality is uh, a lot of people aren't in the position to actually go and put some money down on a truck. Uh, they're not in the position to just go to a dealer and just buy a truck generically, just with the streamlined process, just where get a loan and buy the truck. So it may be experience, it may be credit, it may be all those things. So those are the reasons that actually put you in the position that now you're getting in line to consider getting this truck from the carrier. But you have to understand that the carrier is not going to allow you to port the truck anywhere, right? The benefit to them is going to be that that truck is actually going to stay with them. What kind of set of work are you going to be doing with that truck? What is your true freedom at that carrier? Remember, now you're subject to their lanes, their freight, and only that. You're going to also have that deduction every single week, which can range in that $600 to $700, if not more. I mean, I've seen some people paying $1,000 a week. That's 4K a month. So that is very difficult for an owner operator um, who is limited to that set of work, whether they're doing dedicated customer, like whatever it is. Your hands are tied, and so that truck is going to get paid before you do. So they're going to deduct that from your settlement before you actually get to take your money and then manage your money and figure out where you want to place it for that week. So you get very limited as an owner operator. But again, it's not so much that that's a bad program and predatory. It may be, I guess, but the idea behind it for me is always like, why line up, right? We got to be able to look at our finances. We got to be able to see how we're running. Why don't I have $3,000 to go do my own thing? Why is that credit score bad? So there's a lot of homework behind the scenes that have to get addressed because money management is one. I mean, just think about it, right? So if you're in that position with bad credit, if you're in that position that you don't have that down payment, you probably need to work on that a little bit, right? And so what they're actually doing is they're like, okay, let's give you a truck, but we have to manage that piece for you because obviously you can't on your own. So you have to look at it that way, right? Because it's about not only what they're offering, but the self growth, self reflection. You got to look in that mirror a little bit and say, all right, man, what could I do better so that I'm not in this position, and so forth. So that's actually one type of lease to purchase that is out there, that I see guys jump on all the time, and then when they're trying to get out of it, it's like quicksand. You've invested too much to just leave it and lose everything, but if you stay in it, you're gonna keep losing. And so how much, to end up with this truck that has high miles, uh, it's kind of old, and you're so limited to your business, so it becomes this dogma, man. You're just stuck in like Groundhog Day with this company, and there's almost like no way out. And so now frustration sets in. All the loads they're offering you, your time there, your experience, it all starts to dwindle away. And now trucking's not the place to be. All of a sudden you're extremely frustrated, and mood is everything, guys. So if now you don't even want to be there, but you feel that you're stuck there, man, that's a tough place to be and a tough place to be successful, right? Because how you show up every single day is going to be the difference as to how successful you actually make your business, right? There's things you can control and things that you cannot control. So for anybody in that position with those trucks, you got to make a decision, right? Like either you're going to step away and just find a different way and count your losses. I think that's what I would do. Just like, it's time to walk away, because to give them more time, 2, 3 more years of that, I think I would do more damage to myself and my business rather than trying to than staying there and just trying to tough it out and not going anywhere, just kind of running in the same place. So you have that. Um, another one is what we call them is third party leases. And those guys come in all shapes and sizes as well. I do think that this is definitely the arena that I would dance in, because you're going to have your leases with them. So let's say, don't use these guys or use them. That piece is going to be up to you. You could use guys like Lone Mountain. Plenty of my guys have used them. They really, really, really like them. Trucks with low miles, warranties, and all of that. You got guys like LRM out of Miami. You got guys, Freedom Way up in Alabama, I believe they are. So they're all going to have their unique programs, right? So you also have to understand that. So like, let's say Lone Mountain, those guys are going to check credit. You do have to have a down payment. You have to have some skin in the game. You have to have some experience, right? I've seen people where, the guy's a fleet owner and he just doesn't even have a license. And the guy, well, his plan is to become a fleet owner, very good credit score, 800, has the money for the down payment, and he got denied. And the reason the guy's getting denied is because he's never driven a truck. And his plan is to actually go find a driver, put him in the truck, and then just get the check in the mail. So these guys, their financing department already knows about how difficult that, theoretically that's a good idea, but can it work? That's what they're going to be looking at. Uh, so the guy got denied. Where you got a guy with a lower credit score, let's say in the 540s or something like that, he gets approved because he's got 2 years experience, has a little bit of money stashed away, and he's able to go get that truck. They know that he's in it for the win. They know that he's got skin in the game. The probability of him being more successful is a lot greater than the other guy with the theoretical plan, right? So they're looking at that. LRMs, all these other places, they're going to have different requirements. Some guys don't even ask for credit check. They're just going to put you in a truck. But again, what does that come with? So now you have to understand, if they're not asking those questions, it still comes at a price to you. So what's the price? The trucks, are they going to be high miles? What is the payment? How much are they taking for maintenance? Can you move the truck? Because I've also seen bad boys like SFI has stuff out there that as well. You want to move the truck, you can, at a cost. Why? Because they don't just want you job hopping. They know that once you start job hopping, the likelihood of you succeeding is going to be is here we go. We got a comment of thoughts on SFI. Um, I've had a few people with them. It just depends on what you're going to get into. SFI has an array of used trucks and a lot newer trucks. I do believe like they like that newer truck, and so those payments could be astronomical. But again, it just depends on your work ethic. I have seen where I had a teams. They were actually running for us, truck through SFI. They were always able to upgrade their truck, but they were limited on miles on a monthly basis. Now, I don't know exactly what program they actually stepped into or qualified for, but I'm just letting you know they were limited to like 10,000 miles, like on a monthly basis for a team. Man, that's insane. Like that right there is hindering your business. So I don't even care if you're driving a new truck because you can't even drive it. Like it's not designed for you to win. And then they're also going to be taking those payments for you from you every single week, and they're coming and they want their bill. So it really depends on what program you're signing up for. You have to check all these details out before you actually sign up. Don't let them just hype you up when you get to that drop yard and you're trying to pick that truck, and they show you that new bad boy, and you know your capacity, you know how many miles you're going to be running, you know where you're going to be, actually what your haul source is going to be, so kind of getting back to that. SFI is pretty decent in that regard as far as their equipment. However, you do have to be careful and watch the bottom line. So going back to like the barrier to entry, right? The sweet part about this right here is that guys that have what it takes don't need 20, $30,000 in the bank to get started. I understand that that is the better way to do it, but not everybody is in that position. And we're against time, right? We want to make sure that we're not only just a better version of ourselves than yesterday, but that at the same time we're we're a better version of ourselves next year, right? And we're improving our business, and we're pushing forward. So if you have about, you can get into a truck with like 7 grand, and you might have a credit card on the side with a high limit that could be for like a breakdown or something like that. And what's backing that for you as your business plan, the collateral for that is actually going to be your work ethic. You have to know who you are and what you're willing to do to get it done, right? So once you make that decision, I don't think that these programs are bad. You just have to keep an eye on the details. You know that you don't have 40K to go buy a truck cash. So then what you're going to do is, uh, you know, you're going to gamble and you're going to invest in yourself. You're going to bet the chips on your work ethic. These trucks come in all shapes and sizes. 300,000 miles. That's a pretty decent truck right there. Plenty of meat left on that bone. And you also want to see what kind of warranties they have on these guys. I know Lone Mountain offers 2-year warranty, unlimited miles, bumper to bumper. I think LRM might be just a few months or something like that. But again, that LRM might work for somebody. I'm not saying it's a bad gig. I'm just saying that that guy that doesn't have maybe that 7K, or doesn't have that credit score, rather, has to go to something like that. But he could still end up winning because he could move that truck to wherever he wants. He's not in the same position as the guy from that is limited to one carrier, and that is it. So again, check that freedom. How can you port the truck? What are the details to moving the truck? Like how many loops do you actually have to jump through? You want to pay attention to that, because it's not always as easy as people think. I think actually, one guy from SFI, whether real or not, they wanted like 15K for him to jump. That's basically them telling you no. Legally you can, but they're just telling you you're not going to be doing that today. So unless you're going to drop 15K just to try a different carrier. So you want to pay attention to that. Another good, I would say, another good option away from, before I get into the better options, there are a lot of guys out there that I have had phone calls where they just want to go rent a truck from like Ryder and all of that, and that's a whole different animal. I don't suggest anybody does that. Like, it's just not even worth it. The rate you're going to be paying, are you even going to qualify? Like, there is so much to do with that guys, who's ever considering that, to rent a truck and try it out, I would scratch that plan, and you're much better off getting into that Lone Mountain or the SFI or the LRM, any of those bad boys right there. All right. So those are your typical ways of getting this done. So the beauty about it, going back to the low barrier to entry, you don't need a lot of money to get started, but the idea is to start. That is the biggest thing behind that. And at the end of the lease, you can take your truck or it's yours, right? So for example, porting your truck wherever you want to go. Now that doesn't mean you should be job hopping and going from one place to another, right? You have to allow a learning curve to happen. So once you identify your haul source, right, where are you going to move this truck to? Because they're going to want to know whether it's LRM, SFI, Lone Mountain, whoever it is, they want to know where are you going to be, what your haul source will be. And why that's important, they're going to check their safer score, I believe. They do a little bit of background on them, and so forth. And then what you're going to do from there is basically now you're going to get this truck. So now what you have to consider is getting this truck on the road as quick as possible. So let me tell you why that's important, right? Because a lot of guys, I've seen some guys where we actually get the truck, it gets home, we're washing it, we're putting chrome on it, we're doing all of that, and then we're delaying the starting process. But what is coming is that bill, right? That monthly payment is just around the corner. This is like any other business. You want to hit the ground running as quick as possible. As soon as they give you the keys to that truck, that is grand opening. So your planning actually starts way before you even get the keys. So for example, this is how we do it, and I would suggest people do it as well. Let's say our guy is picking up a truck in Georgia or Texas, right? Um, for a current guy, what we have done in the past is like a current owner operator who just leveled up, sold his truck because he had a lot of miles, 1.5, and it was time to get a new one. So he did that. That guy, because I know him, he's already going to that place with decals, with the plate, everything, ELD, everything that he needs in order to get that truck rolling, so that I can power him only out of there, get him back here to get a trailer. And I do that because I understand the quality that comes from that lease to purchase program he's jumping on. So I know that I know the inspection is good. I know everything about that already. They do a really nice job of getting all the information. I get them plated. Do all of that remotely, and then he throws on the stickers, ELD, and he's getting started. Right. So we're not wasting any time. We're not wasting money. We have to be efficient and we have to be effective. So the dispatcher is aware of that. The compliance team is aware of that. So everybody knows how pressing and important it is to get that guy on the road. So you should be treating your business the same way. That's the whole key behind it, right? You should not be wasting any time. As far as like, I've seen people sit on a new truck, not a new truck, but new to them. I'll get the phone call. Hey man, I've been sitting on this truck in my driveway for like 3 weeks. I'm like, man, 3 weeks. I don't know, man. That procrastination to get it started. I get it. Some people get caught up in the process to get started, but when it's time to actually go to work, it becomes I don't know, man. We just delay it a little bit, but that's going to be a little bit of hurt. Um, so that's what you want to do, right? And somebody who else like may not be on my fleet, and he's just he just applied and he got approved and all that good stuff. Not necessarily is he going to get powered only out of there, because uh, one of the biggest things for him is he's got to get to the location and make sure that that truck is going to be the one that he's going to be getting, and also the timing between him leaving his other job. So there's a lot of more details that come to that, but usually he's going to pick up that truck. They're going to give him a template. That plate is just to port the truck back home. It is not to work. You can't give them a power only plate off of that. Um, when you do pick up these trucks, guys, you want to make sure that you're getting the inspections on there. You want to make sure that they even allow you to go get a dyno on the bad boy. But even if you do have something on the dyno, I don't know. I really haven't seen too many people get dynos, and So I don't know. Put that in the comments. Actually, has anybody done a dyno on the truck that's new to them? And what were your findings? Was it in your favor? Did they end up switching it, fixing it? What is the value add? Is it worth spending the money? So please let me know in the comments below. Hey, what type of money should we be spending money on a dyno? Um, sorry guys, give me 1 second here. Okay, so then that's what you want to do, guys, is make sure that once you're picking up these bad boys, you are planning it so that you are not wasting time. I have actually had people pick up trucks in Georgia on a Friday, Monday morning orientation, stickered up, and roll back out. So it's turn and burn. Um, no days off on that, simply because they just started a business. All right. So I got a comment here. What are the chances of a driver with 4 month experience getting a job as an owner operator? It's going to depend. It's going to depend, on what company that you're going to operate with. The bigger boys who are self-insured are going to have a lot more freedom into that. So unfortunately, there are guys who've been driving 4 months and have the skill set to be safe and be successful. But there are, our insurance. So a lot of us are governed by our insurance, and that's the requirement. And it's kind of like the premium reflects of what you're allowed to use, who you're allowed to use and not use, and so that's really what limits you. That's out there. So like my man, I've even seen guys who get their own get their own video, get their own CDL license, pay for the school and all of that, and then have trouble finding work. So as strange as that sounds, that's for another video, like why people get caught up in that. We can definitely put that up later, but for now we're going to stick to the lease to purchase. But my man, it's about insurance. So you do have a chance. I say you start making those phone calls now before you actually buy the truck. Don't make that mistake. I have seen people do that mistake where the truck's in the driveway, and now the places that are willing to give them a chance are less than ideal. So you don't want to be doing that. Um, so everybody that's watching, type into the chat. Let us know you have questions, comments. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. It keeps these videos coming so we can actually give you the information that you need to be successful. Any recommendation, first time owner operator, what trucks should be purchased? All right, trucks that you should be purchasing. This is kind of a tough answer, and let me just tell you why. I think I've had plenty of people with enough money to get started. They had what it takes, and they just don't like the trucks that are available. I understand, and engines. I understand, the transmissions, and they're looking for all these details, the specs on the truck, rather, right? They're looking at the mechanical specs of this truck. And I understand that that's important, right? Because of future maintenance, because of future breakdowns, and so forth, right? But at the end of the day, this is a business. You can get lost in that. And I have seen people where they get too lost that they forgot what they came for. All you really need to be successful is, I would say, a truck with about 300,000 miles or less. The bad boy's a workhorse, and you can get 6.5 to the gallon and up. No fancy, no long nose P, none of that is necessary. No one is going to pay more rate per mile because of that truck. Is it a nice truck? Absolutely. Does he look good? Absolutely. But to get started, I don't necessarily think that should be the key focus. I would get started with that, and then you can get going, and then you can switch up and level up. Once your lease is up, then you say, all right, you've learned the game, right? The game called trucking. You now know a little bit more through trial and tribulation as to what's important and where you should be spending, company money. And then you make that decision a little bit later on, but you got to allow things to happen to get there. We can't just bypass all this growth and experiences and just get to that, right? We have to go through some of that. You know, a truck you can afford. It could be, I have a comment here saying a truck that you can afford. So let's talk about that for a little bit, right? Because a lot of guys fall in love with the idea. For example, it's an unfortunate event, no name dropping, but I have a guy under our roof, 40K into polishing up, an older truck. That's a lot of money, only to be on your first load and show's over because the transmission went. So with that money, he could have been in a much better position. I'm just going to use that as an example. 3K down, 1,600 a month. He would have been in a 2022 something with 300,000 miles, and you're still in the game. So I understand the Freightliner he wanted. I understand the engine. I understand he likes the ride and all of that. But again, the name of the game is to stay in business so that you can generate revenue, take that revenue home, and pay the bills. That's what we came for. Um, Again, that's not a lot of people are. Not everybody's going to agree with that. But if you're asking, I'm answering. Just because you can afford that 40K on something like that, and it's an older truck and all that, can you really afford that? Can you really afford the breakdowns? Can you really afford for that truck to be in the shop? So just because the truck is paid off cash, it doesn't mean that you're necessarily in a better position, right? Because if you take 1,600 bucks, let's say on average, that's going to be your payment, right? And you multiply that by 12 payments, you're talking $20,000. You cannot retire off of $20,000. I view it as a cost to do business, but you're operating with a quality truck. You're operating where any load being offered to you, you don't have to worry about. It's not in your subconscious that you don't know if this truck is going to make it up the hill. And so the load is actually good, but it's not good because you don't know if it's actually going to make it. So now you want to run regional because just in case you break down, you're not that far from home, and so it makes it easier to tow the truck. Um, or now a guy scales it down and says, "Hey man, let me be local because I don't know about this truck." If you find yourself in that position, it's time to level up. It's just a matter of time, and you're racing the clock. So you don't want to get caught up in that. So my man, yes, what you can afford, but even if this guy had 40, right? I would rather put 6, 7 down, right? Pay everything. Let's say I would have spent 10 to get there. 30 in the bank gives me financial freedom, a nice sense of, all right, man, anything that happens, I can resolve it. And he'd still be trucking today. So that's what I would say. I'm not necessarily, I don't think that just getting a truck paid off is the answer to everything. That's not enough to retire, in my opinion. All right, here we go. 2020 Peterbilt 579 getting 8 to 9 per gallon. Here we go. That's what time it is, man. Right there, that guy's in a position that it can actually be uh $1,000, like somebody getting 5 miles to the gallon or 4.5. Man, this guy could do we actually had this happen to us. We had two guys do the exact same routes, just coincidentally the same loads that week, same miles, just two different trucks. One guy was getting 4.5 and one guy was getting 7.5 or something like that. Man, it was $1,000 difference on the paycheck. That $1,000 was just thrown out the window to fuel. So you have to pay attention to that. So those trucks that look sweet, uh, they're great, but guys, you got to understand the cost. And I think we end up here because a lot of times when the market is thriving and there's enough money, you're not really realizing how much money you're leaving on the table. It's only when things get a little bit tough and the market gets a little tight and the rates are not in your favor, that now you're really feeling the pain. And so then it's a little too late to make that change. So guys, you've got to be paying attention to that. Um, and so that's real important for you guys. So guys, make sure you do me that favor. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Like the video. It's gonna help. It's gonna help people see it. It's gonna help put this information in front of other people, and so that they can actually learn from. So we can learn from each other as well. So here we go on that. And then that's what I would recommend. So going back again, if you're gonna do the lease to purchase, guys, understand the less they're asking you from you up front, the more you have to pay attention to the details as to how hard it's going to be for you to, actually be successful with this truck. So I believe you want to be in that sweet spot. You want to have some skin in the game because now your options are going to change. Remember, the program is going to be the same. I get people all the time calling in, "Hey man, I'm in this program, freaking people, like blah 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 blah. This thing sucks," and just full of complaints, which is fine, right? It's not working out, but the contract didn't change. It's the same exact contract the day he signed it. The only thing about it was he was excited. And remember, those guys are salespeople, so they're just hyping you up to make that impulse purchase. And now you signed up for something that you probably knew wasn't going to work. But why? So the idea behind it is, guys, don't get in that position. So for my people who are thinking about getting into lease to purchase, you got to come to the table with a little something. So I think if somebody can do, have 5, 6 in the bank, right? Just having the 5, 6 already is step number one, because you're showing them, the bank, getting approved, that you have the financial literacy and the financial discipline to save up the 5, 6 grand. So you're already ahead of the game on that, right? And so now your approval process is going to be a lot better. So not only that, then they're going to look at that credit. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. They understand that, and by you knowing that they understand that, yes, that will come at a cost to you. Um, we got a guy, worst lease program I've ever heard of. Um, I would say, I would say the carrier offered programs, any of those programs are the worst, I believe, that can be offered out there. Because let me tell you, like, the agenda is going to change, right? Let's just kind of flip it a little bit. I think the business model becomes generating revenue from the truck. So now what's going to happen? It's not so much a one transaction, right? The programs, they know are going to fail, and they're going to have to reseat this truck. So if the trucks are reseated 4, 5, 6 times, man, that truck has paid for itself 2 times fold. So that becomes their objective. So the game is different. The game isn't so much about the loads. They're going to put you, they're going to put you in this bucket where you're doing probably the best loads that they have, right? Let's say they have customer freight. So you're going to be doing those customer freight. And then you have people who successfully complete the lease to purchase program, carrier offered ones. And then what's going to happen? You're no longer eligible to those lanes, because the highest profitable lanes are going to be offered to the guys who have a bill. And the bill is due to the carrier. So, of course, they're going to make sure that those guys are making the revenue because they want to get paid. So I just think that those are the worst programs, because you're not really free. You're just part of that machine. You're just part of that program. I think that when you can port the truck over to anywhere you want, you now have that freedom as an owner operator to actually say, okay, like, I gave this place a fair shot, but I can't die on this hill. It's really, whether it's the dispatch or the safety, or whatever the situation may be from that carrier, of why you need to change, that is solely up to you. And again, that can go sideways real quick. Don't be that job hopper looking for what doesn't exist, and now all of a sudden it's everybody, it's everybody's fault you're not making money. Don't victimize yourself in that regard, right? You want to allow wherever you port the truck to, an opportunity to be successful. So you got to kind of get to learn each other a little bit. You and that dispatcher, that relationship would be the most important one. So pretty much any carrier program you're going to see is really not is really the worst kind. And you're paying astronomical money. Just to get you to call, you'll see, hey, $400 a week, and then what's really getting deducted is going to be closer to seven to $900 on a weekly basis. That's a lot of money, especially in this day and age. So actually, at any time, that's a lot of money, because you're paying for it, and then you got to be careful. Like, what's the buyout? $1, 25,000. Like, you got to pay attention to that as well. So those would be the worst. Those would be the worst kind. Uh, All right, so here we go. Um, and what is the so talking about the worst kind? Let's talk about the best kind, right? So the best kind, I think, is the ones that give you access to low mile trucks. And what that's going to do is you're going to have a little bit of prerequisites to get to those trucks, right? So now you need that down payment. That's what we talked about, right? So you're going to have a little bit of skin in the game to have access to this better equipment, right? I always talk about, like, if you go to a dealer, man, pay here, buy here, pay here, whatever those little dealers are on 60 and all of that. Everybody knows what's on the lot, high miles, pieces of junk, and all of that. So why do they do that? Because they're gonna take advantage of people that are in need, and nobody's surprised. And no, none of those things have warranties. So this is not any different, my people. So the less barrier to entry, I do feel that the less quality of the truck that you can buy is going to drop dramatically. So you want to be able to save up, get some skin in the game, and put yourself in that sweet spot. So again, even making a traditional purchase from like Select Trucks or Arrow out of Tampa, I'm not saying use them. I'm just dropping names because they're right around the corner. Um, they sometimes have decent programs as well. So, if you have a little bit of money and you want to explore that as well, ideally, because sometimes they're going to have sweet programs like down payment match, and you actually thought you weren't a customer, but now you are. So guys, you have to consider all things before you actually jump in. The only thing you don't want to consider, in my opinion, is going to be a carrier offered lease to purchase program. You do not want to find yourself in that position. They're not made for you to win, simply because of conflict of interest. And then if you are in that spot, don't act surprised if you do sign up for that and line up for that. So remember, you have to ask all those tough questions, guys, before you jump in. And even once you have the details, pick a buddy that you trust. Um, and have him look it over. And if what does he think? Just get a different pair of eyes on that. All right, guys, for more videos like this, please like, share, subscribe with good people, and let them know what we're about. Let them know there's a bunch of content here, and they can request content to make videos about things that they want to know about. All right. We have live events coming up, so make sure you put your email there so we can add you to the list and you can be notified when it drops. Remember, what we're here to do is put that good information in front of good people. Once again, guys, I am not saying do not do this lease to purchase program. I am just saying let's look at all the details before you actually jump in. Even though you're excited about it, we got to take a step back, because nobody wants to fail and nobody wants to see you fail, especially Super Trucker Podcast. We don't want to see anybody fail as an owner operator. Um, and so let's take a step back. Actually, if you had questions directly about a lease to purchase, give us a call, send us an email. Let's review it. We'll give you your opinion. Maybe it's good, and we say, hey, roll with that. You don't have to bring the truck here, guys. It's not about that. It's about putting that good information in front of good people. And maybe we see something on there that you don't see, and now you have a second pair of eyes on it. So we're always here to help in that regard. So please like, share, and subscribe. And here we go. So another thing that you want to look at out there, guys, when you're shopping around, I just want to talk about the Google reviews. Yes, they're important, but I also think you have to take it with a grain of salt. You got to be able to read through them, because a lot of the times people don't put the full story up. And usually when a lot of people are successful at something, I don't know, I don't really find people are putting up, they're busy running a trucking business, they're busy making money. I don't necessarily think that they're going there onto Google and putting their full experience on there. And so what happens is these reviews get overwhelmed with negativity, and we kind of like just only see that face of it, and then we're taking that for face value. When again, read through it. What was that guy's condition? Maybe my man wasn't even working the way he should work, and all of a sudden he's a problem. Maybe you got to read through it. You got to do your own, analogy on that and see for face value. But I always would say, if you can pass by their location, make it a tangible experience. That will help you tons, because you have enough experience to walk into a building and understand if you want to be, the energy that comes from that, the vibe of the room, the actual equipment, the offices, what they look like. That in itself is going to give you a good understanding of how they conduct business, and if you want to be a part of that. So that speaks volumes. So if your gut is telling you, nah, man, this is not the place, like, you want to listen to that gut too. So presentation is a lot. So you got to make sure that the company cares about their presentation, and that's important to them, because that means they value their customers. So guys, if you have an opportunity to do that and get in front of them, like, for sure, that's something that you should definitely be doing. Um, Here we go. All right. So my people, any other topics that you have, once again, make sure you like, share, subscribe. Please drop the comments there, anything that you may want to see, and also your email, so you can get those notification for live events. Uh, and if there's anything that we didn't cover, and you want us to revisit this, we could do that as well. We can actually even do some videos that walk you through getting plates, 2290s, and the importance. I know a lot of people out there do know, but at the same time, a lot of other people do not know. And that's what this program's about. So there's no such thing as a silly question, as long as you're getting the answer to it, and you'll be better off for that. All right. Hey, Christian, long time. Hey, how you doing? Um, all right, guys. So remember, happy truck hunting. For those guys who are looking to purchase their first truck, don't get lost in that. Once again, we covered, finding that perfect engine, that perfect truck. Sometimes you can get caught up in that, and here we go. And again, a lot of the comments on those programs, as you see, are going to be that guys are thieves, they're scammers, and all of that. But remember, if they are scammers, they were scammers from the beginning. So you lined up for that. I'm not saying it's your fault. I'm not saying any of that, guys. I'm just talking about facts here. Remember, uh, the comments are important, but also you got to be able to recognize a scam before you jump in, right? You got to be able to, know you should not be making that decision on the spot. You got to be able to take that idea home. You got to be able to sleep on that. You got to be able to consider, like, is this really worth it? Uh, and look at your financial situation and kind of make sense of it, right? So you have to be able to do that. So don't make a decision on that spot. Do your research. Compare apples to apples. And before you jump into anything, guys, that's the most important part right there. Um, yeah. All right. So hold on, I got a comment here. All right. So, and please, if I missed anything, and there are other lease to purchase programs that are out there that actually work, and you have been successful, please share that with us, so we can put it out to the trucking community, and everybody can learn that there is another option. So remember, sometimes there are those small hidden gems, that really do work, and a lot of people can benefit from that. That's what the show is about, the trucking community, and putting good information in front of good people. But again, guys, it has to come from you guys. A lot of what we talk about comes through years and years and years of experience of actually being involved in operations, being part of the process of a growing trucking company, the good, the bad, everything that comes with it. Everything we talk about, we've lived through. Nothing is theoretical. There's probably not a lot more we can go through. There definitely is, but been through some stuff, man. I don't even know if I can curse here, but been through some shit. So what we're doing is, putting that info out there so you guys could learn as well, and make better decisions here. All right. Um, and I do wonder, man, like, is anybody out there that has worked for a carrier and the program has been successful? I don't know. Please let us know. Put that in the comments there. Maybe there is a hidden gem that somebody has been successful, and all I hear is the complaints and complaints and complaints, and see I actually get to see the contracts that are not in their favor. So, but maybe there is an opportunity out there with a carrier that may make sense, and prove me wrong. Let's see, like if somebody can elaborate and there is something that can work out for someone, well, got no shame to put that up there and say, hey guys, hey, we want to pivot a little bit. Look at this program. But again, all this information comes from you guys, because once you live it, that's the facts right there, right? If you just go on Google and kind of troll, they're just gonna give you all the nice looking bells and whistles, and once you see settlement checks, that's where you're going to see all the deductions. So if you are planning on that, right, and you need something else in your corner as another tool, make sure you ask for the settlement checks. Make sure you ask for those sample settlement checks so you can see the type of deductions that are coming out of their checks week after week. And don't just ask for one. You want to be asking for the last 3 or 4 so you see some consistency. You want to know if also, when they're deducting it weekly, if you take a week off because you're an owner operator, you can do so. Are you coming back to a negative balance, right? Because the payment doesn't stop. So now if it's 700 a week, you're coming back to a, $1,400 payment, and unless you're paying that upfront. So consider all of that. So now taking a week off it becomes a lot more difficult for a guy like you, because not only are you losing revenue from not running, so you're not making that 7K because you're not running that week, you also come back to that negative balance because your negative payments are still accruing. So now you got to account for all of that as a business owner. So you want to make sure you're checking all of that stuff, and you want to know all of this ahead of time before you start working for them, or before you actually sign up on the onto that program. Um, all right, so make sure you guys are doing that research. That's one of the most important parts. Take your time with it. Even if you found the perfect truck, I'm telling you, don't do it on the spot. That truck will be there tomorrow if it's meant to be. You want to be able to sleep on it, catch your bearings, compare it to other programs that you have, and that just comes with a little bit of discipline. So I'm assuming if you're about to start a trucking company, you already, you've evolved a little bit with that self-discipline in order to make sure that you're successful and your business can thrive. So again, those are the major lease to purchase ones, right? You got the carrier offer or lease purchase programs, usually walk away leases, no money down, sign and drive. Be very cautious. You don't necessarily want to just jump on those bad boys because they're easy to get into and hope for the best. Not everything that shines is gold, especially in trucking, guys. Not everything that shines is gold. Then you actually have the lease to purchase trucks that are going to be, like 300,000 miles, decent warranties, new tires, things of that nature. You can move these. You can move your truck to wherever you want. You're not limited to a certain place. Um, it gives you that opportunity to have that freedom as an owner operator, and very reasonable monthly payments. And the beauty, you're making those payments. You're not asking the carrier to make the payments for you. You actually are making the payments, just like you pay your water bill. You're going to be making your monthly payments, right? Once you see that the lease to purchase people want the carrier to do deductions from your settlement check, that's going to be a red flag. You want to know actually why. Why is something like that happening? And even if they have a good answer for you, you have to understand that you're going to be limited, because what's going to happen is the next carrier you go to, you may like it there, you may love the dispatcher, you may love the freight, the rates, but if they don't subscribe to that and actually want nothing to do with that and getting that deduct and managing that and deducting from you and all of that, they're not going to bring you on. And so now you're limited because of that simple clause that they have. So you want to pay attention to that. Um, and then again, you got the lease to purchase of the brand new trucks, and they have specific carriers that you can run for. You will be limited to that, and again, those payments are going to be bigger. Those down payments are going to be bigger. So it just depends on that on your purchasing power. Be cautious if you move your truck from their certified carrier list. What's going to happen to your contract? Sometimes I've seen interest rates that are going to adjust, and it went from like a something very reasonable to like 32%, which means you can move your truck if you're willing to pay that, but it's so unreasonable that you actually cannot move your truck. Um, as always, my people, it is Wednesday. It's midweek. Get out there, get trucking, make sure you're earning. Again, I love sharing information like this. So please drop the comments below. Give us different type of topics. This is about learning. This is about growing from each other. And I want to say be safe and drive safe. So until next time, my people, we will be out there, making content still. Check out Super Trucker Podcast. We got Facebook as well. We have TikTok, all that good stuff. Please share, like, subscribe. And if you know somebody that didn't know about us, let them know about us so that we can share the content. Be good. Get trucking. We'll talk next time, guys.